The consumer of American politics believes that the majority of people vote with their conscience. Well, some do, and at times I think there are votes that require you to vote your conscience, but a lot of the votes are political expediency, self-preservation. I mean, it's just a reality. I think there's some thought given to that, but we were talking about Joe Manchin in particular, and I think there's several Democrats in this vote. I think Manchin, McCaskill, Tester, maybe Nelson in Florida. I think they're beginning to think through this thing, and it's not all about voting their conscience. And Manchin, let's use Manchin for an example. Manchin's in West Virginia. Trump's plus 42 in West Virginia. His approval are plus 42. Kavanaugh's the Trump appointment, or the appointee. So Manchin's got to figure this out. If Kavanaugh's going to win anyway, why do I want to tick off the Trump base, the Trump voter, that may give me a chance to go back to Washington or not? But if Manchin has to be the tie-breaking vote, no way, no how. You'll never convince me that Joe Manchin will vote his conscience and say, this guy got a bad deal. There's not really any evidence, any corroboration. Because if he does that, guess what the Democrats will do? They'll cut his money off and primary him. I mean, that's just the way the game is played. You know that as well as I do. So I think you've got a lot of dynamics.
I don't think Manchin would want to be, though, the Democrat, like you said, who breaks and gives Kavanaugh the majority.
But if Flake and Collins or Murkowski say yes, then I think that gives Manchin a chance to say yes. And if that happens, do you agree? Well, we'll start the roundtable. Do you agree?
McCaskill would be the one that Donnelly in Indiana.
Correct.
Manchin, yes. Tester. I think Heidi Heitkamp.
She's in a dogfight.
But, McCaskill announced almost immediately, that she was going to vote against Kavanaugh.
But is that good strategy? I mean, because she's in a tough race. I mean, in a very tough race.
Well, you're dealing with an ideologue there, and a woman Democratic senator.
Yeah.
And it would smell kind of bad if she all of a sudden was a big Kavanaugh night. Yeah, I mean,
okay,
it would say strictly politics to try to save her seat.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. I want you to say agree or disagree. I think the committee comes today. I think they meet at about 9:30. I think they vote 11-10 in the affirmative to put the nominee on the floor, to put the nomination on the floor. I think Flake votes to break the tie. And I think if Flake votes this morning, obviously he'll vote when the nominee or when the nomination hits the full Senate. Your opinion of Jeff Flake as we speak?
Well, I've always thought highly of him. I think he's a true fiscal conservative, like McCain.
But he's been sideways with Trump.
And Barry Goldwater. He even, wrote a book now. It's highly critical of Trump. That's the reason he wound up with his numbers so bad in Arizona that he didn't seek re-election.
Because he got sideways with Trump.
He got sideways with Trump. But he wrote a book very critical of Trump, and it called it Conscience of a Conservative. Same title as the book that Senator Goldwater wrote, or, said he wrote. It was ghosted, by a fellow named Brent Bozell, who was Bill Buckley's brother-in-law. Anyway, it's a great book, though. Very simple.
So do you think Flake votes for Kavanaugh in the committee?
Yes.
So you think...
I think this is the reason is that he is a conservative, and
so he will vote his conscience. He won't vote for political expediency because he's not running for re-election.
Right. Well, but there would be a consideration. Is he out of electoral politics for good? In Arizona or nationally or whatever. I would think he's a conservative. He's not a weenie walking the line. So, I think if it comes out it's 11-10, then it would be the two ladies that would be the deciding factor.
Collins and Murkowski.
Yeah, and you might get a split, but you'd still win. But a lot of it can be political. Let me tell you. I don't know when Murkowski's coming up. It seems to me she ought to be up maybe in 2020. And, she won't get a nickel from the Republican National Committee or the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee.
And they may find a primary opponent for her.
Yeah, So even though she's pretty moderate, Collins is a little bit different. She's a true independent.
Some would argue she's a Democrat.
Huh?
Some within the Republican Party would argue she's a Democrat.
Oh, I think she's a good senator. She's like a lot of the old time Republicans used to be. They had a streak of lean in them. And were independent. And we're not crazy right wingers. And and look where she's got to run. It's good for her. It's good territory, Maine, given her voting record and this kind of thing. The only thing I'd say about Sue Collins is she got an unusual voice, and demeanor.
But let me ask you this: if both the ladies, if Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski vote for Kavanaugh, you could see 2 or 3 or 4 Democrats join ranks. You could see the Democrats.
Right. If he's over,
if he gets 51 without the vice president coming to break the tie.
That's right. Then there might be some piling on from maybe 3, possibly even 4.
Who are Democrats in red states, Democrats in Trump country.
That's right. That's right.
What did you make of yesterday, Dr. Thigpen? You've seen a lot of political drama in your life. You tend to not overreact. A lot of us overreact because we're caught up in the moment.
Well, there was a lot of theater, and a lot of play acting. Dr. Ford, she did precisely what she had to do. We were talking before the show about, what's she like in class? I would argue that, if she was like she was yesterday in class, she's a real sleeping pill, in her seminars and this kind of thing. But she was letter perfect. She was pathetic.
And that's what she needed to be.
And that's what she needed to be.
But you said something very interesting.
Then Kavanaugh was, what was Kavanaugh going to do? Come back in there and say, oh, it just isn't true. It just, he had to be incredulous. He had to divide the thing along party lines. He even, said, hey, these guys on the one side here, kind of like some of the stuff that Lindsay and, Kavanaugh was a tough Irishman yesterday. He was a saloon Irishman, I
do want to mention Alex doing a Facebook Live segment. You can watch what we're doing at Live953 is our Facebook page. You said something, being a former professor, you said, chemistry professors teach chemistry. Math professors teach math.
Well,
but some of the other professors, you said, there's some acting involved here.
Oh, yeah, you've got to, particularly people in letters, you're teaching, a course in modern American literature, and, you can't just sit there and, like this gal did yesterday, and come across as pathetic. You've got to talk about F. Scott Fitzgerald, with some degree of passion, about all of these. And there's theater involved in the social sciences, in the humanities. A professor who doesn't have some degree of theater about him, you might as well go sell eggs for a living or something. You're not going to go very far as in the academic world. And I think there was a good. You don't know. Dr. Ford, might have been doing quite a good theater job. And Kavanaugh, I think, just didn't have any other way to go. And I think he was absolutely incredulous. He even owned up. Yeah, I drank some beer on the weekends. And like I said, he's Irish. What Mayor Daley of Chicago used to say, he was a first-rate Irishman. And he used to say, when God made the Irish, he made them perfect. And then he went and invented whiskey, and Of course, I shouldn't talk. I've had my battle with the bottle over the years, but, I'm not Irish.
But so you think that at the end of the day, she did what she had to do,
and he
did exactly what he had to do.
He did. They were both on pitch and just right for the circumstances. Now, all this talk about the FBI investigation, didn't they already have one?
I think he said he's had 6.
I can't imagine, particularly early on. I don't know what first position he held where he had to have an FBI investigation, but surely they would have picked this stuff up. About the drinking and sex stuff. I mean, they would have, despite what Brother Trump says about the FBI, they're damn good at what they do. And why didn't they find this stuff earlier?
But you got to listen. I mean, when an allegation is made of a person about to be nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court, you've got to give it the time of day. I mean, you've got to engage. You can't dismiss it. You were talking about Avenatti's claim. I think you can dismiss that. I don't know if you agree with me.
Well, that Swetnick lady, I noticed that she went to Gaithersville High School. Gaithersburg's now a big metropolitan area out in Montgomery County. But I remember my father taking me there. He used to take me to all the county fairs around Maryland. A lot of times you had flat racing in those days on dirt tracks and stuff. Anyway, to Timonium in Baltimore County and to Gaithersburg was where the Montgomery County Fair, they used to have a lot of big farms and cattle and horses and stuff over in Montgomery County. Now it's all split levels and that kind of thing. But I thought, she was not too specific. She was saying, well, there's a lot of raping going on at all these parties. And in one of these places I was at one of these parties where they were standing in line for the raping, I think I saw Kavanaugh and his buddy Mark Judge and all this kind of thing. But that's, that's as soft as the Dickens. I don't know whether to believe, a Dr. Ford or not. She's kind of came across as a pathetic soul. I kind of agree with you. I think she thinks it happened, and with one of those, one of those analysts, she told one of the analysts the first time she revealed this stuff. See, a lot of times people who are in psych, part of their graduate work and all in psychology, they have to be analyzed, by a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever themselves. And that may have been when this stuff first came out. But she told that person that there were 4 fellas, Now, she didn't name any of them, but she said she was certain, dead letter certain there were 4. Now, there were 2. One of whom was Kavanaugh, and she was 100% sure. Now, on the other side, with Kavanaugh, the one that sounds possible to me,
He drank too much.
Well, certainly drinking, but was the one at Yale as an undergraduate where he's supposed to expose himself in a party of undergraduates, men and women, where everybody was plastered. Now, this Ramirez gal, she seemed to be certain that he was the person who engaged it with her. But let me tell you, back in those days, of course, he's young, Kavanaugh, but I remember stuff,
crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff. Let me might as well. I'll probably get sued by these guys' families, But I joined the Sigma Chi.
We'd rather not get sued.
No, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about me. Because I'm going to talk specifically about a couple of football players.
How about no names?
Let's do this. Let's take a break. We'll take a break.
No, one's dead.
We'll be back in a minute. Thanks to Carolina Business Equipment. Good morning, PT. 595.